Which is better for managing and reversing diabetes and weight loss? So we've got the Starch Solution and Mastering Diabetes. These are both low-fat, plant-based, vegan diets. They both limit nuts, seeds, they both avoid oils, and they both encourage exercise. This Starch Solution recommends the majority of the calories come from starches, such as beans, grains, and pasta. The reason why is these starches contain more calories and fill you up, and if you don't eat enough of those starches, you're not going to get enough calories, and you're gonna be hungry. And 20% of the calories should come from vegetables, and the last 10% he recommends comes from fruit. In contrast, Mastering Diabetes recommend 70 to 80% of the calories come from fruit, and 10% from protein, and 10% from fat. And the fat sources are beans. There's actually quite a bit of fat in beans, so they don't recommend a whole lot of beans, nuts, seeds, and avocado. Dr. McGoogle of the Starch Solution says that if you have a hard time stopping munching on nuts and you're overweight, just don't eat them at all. Just maybe have them on an occasion, or if you can stop at an ounce, then that's fine. But a lot of people like me, once I start eating nuts, it's really hard to stop. I just love them. They're so delicious. In Mastering Diabetes, they are very specific about how much fat you should eat and what fat. So they recommend at least 1 tablespoon of ground flax or soaked chia seeds every single day. And the reason why is those seeds are high in omega-3s and they convert to DHA. And if you are not eating fish, DHA is really important for brain health and to prevent your brain from shrinking. Now, in the Starch Solution, this book is 8 years older than this one. This one was published in 2020, and this one was published in 2012. So this is 8 years older, so maybe that information wasn't available then, but definitely you should have your ground flax seeds or your soaked chia seeds every single day, at least 1 tablespoon. Now you can have hemp seeds, but the problem is hemp seeds are high in omega-6, and so if your omega-6 ratio is too high, it will not convert to DHA. Also, some people do not convert the omega-3s, even from chia or flax, even in sufficient amounts, to DHA, so in that case they should have some sort of algae. This does not mention that at all. This is a good book, but if you really want to know a lot about diabetes, this is the better book. Now, I really like specifics. I don't want to guess when it comes to my health, so they recommend no more than 10 grams of fat for each meal, with a total of 30 grams of fat per day. So that way you can just plug in what you're eating into an app. Like I use the Chronometer, and then you can calculate how much fat you're eating. This has 2 benefits. One is it's not, if you eat too much fat, you're gonna get fat. That's just, that is the truth. It's not carbs, it's fat. So that will help with weight loss. The other thing that's really important is diabetics have a problem with fat. So it goes into detail about how that works, but if a diabetic eats too much fat of any type, even if it's from nuts and seeds, they're gonna have problems with blood sugar control. And I've tested this out, so that's definitely true. So if I have more than 10 grams of fat per meal, it's harder for me to get my blood sugar down. For some people, 30 grams of fat per day and 10 grams of fat per meal is still too much fat, and they still have problems with blood sugar control. So I found that to be my case as well, and in that case, they recommend around 20 grams of fat per day. That is so little fat, because even blueberries have fat. If you have too much beans, that's gonna go over your fat quota. So I try to keep my fat intake as a diabetic. I am a type 1.5 diabetic. I try to keep my daily grams of fat at 25 grams per day, which is really, really low. It's basically like a couple nuts, a couple walnuts, and that tablespoon of seeds, and then, you know, I can have any other vegan whole foods that I want that day. Now, as much as I love fruit, they really, really emphasize fruit. You can have beans as well, but they would rather you eat a lot of fruit. And for me, even if I'm on a low-fat diet, fruit makes it really hard for me to control my blood sugar. And the recipes in this book are extremely high in carbohydrates. Not that there's a problem with carbs, but as a diabetic, for me, going super high carb, it just doesn't work. I mean, one of the recipes is something like 157 grams of carbs for one meal, and they want everyone to try to consume about 300 grams of carbohydrates per day. I just can't do that. I'm little. Oh my gosh, that's just too much. So, and I have not made any of the recipes in this book. For one of the reasons is it's just so high in carbohydrate. Two is most of them have a ton of fruit, and some fruits that I just don't have or don't like, such as papaya, and the recipes just didn't look very good. So I haven't tried any of the recipes, but they are whole food. I wouldn't even call them plant-based. They're just whole food, super healthy. And the Starch Solution, I mean, I love potatoes. Who doesn't love potatoes? So there's lots of potatoes, and actually do better with potatoes than fruit. But the grains don't do so well for me. But the good thing is there's not a lot of grains in the recipe. So if he does ask for grains, it's a small amount. And I did try a lot of the recipes, and they are hit or miss. Some are delicious, fantastic. Some are okay, and some are just yucky. So the Starch Solution is practical for people who don't really want to go vegan, and they don't really want to go for whole food, and they want to keep their pasta and their bread, and they like things sweet. And for a lot of people who struggle, this is a really good compromise, because he says pasta's fine. So there are dishes in here with pasta, but no oil, so that's good. And he has also recipes with sugar. For me, forget about sugar, will spike my blood sugar, so sugar is just really detrimental for me. I also cannot eat processed foods like pasta or bread. It's just, I can't control my blood sugar that way. So, but if someone's a type 2 diabetic, this would be a really good book for them if they don't want to give up those processed foods they like, and they should still get better blood sugar control, but they're not going to get as good as blood sugar control if they had followed the Mastering Diabetes program. So you'll definitely lose weight on this plan, but you're not going to lose enough weight compared to this one. So this one versus this one, right? Okay, so this one is definitely healthier, and this is probably for the average person, but I go super strict. So it depends how ill you are, if you want to go all in. I would say, you know, these are both great books. They have different information in there. I like to read books from different doctors with different perspectives, and they both have really good points. I don't think there's any potato dish in this one, but I think a little bit of potatoes, when I have a little bit of potatoes and I combine it with other vegetables, it's fine for me. So I would say both good, but this one's preferential, and check them out. Jumping right into a vegan diet 100% is tough for a lot of people. So I created a transition book. It's called the High-Carb Diet. It has lower carbohydrate options because if you don't want to transition, have high blood sugars all the time, or you're gonna feel really terrible. So this is a good book that will help you transition to being vegan. It also has cheat meals in there. So instead of going to McDonald's, at least you can make your own dish that does have animal products in it, which I don't eat anymore, but it's better to make foods from scratch that has lower amounts of unhealthy proteins than just going out and picking up some fast food. I also have my favorite vegan recipes in here as well, plant-based. So buy those books, buy mine. I believe that the more you read from all sorts of sources, the better you're going to be at committing to your health goals and understanding how nutrition plays a role in your health and your happiness and your weight. I have not been this thin since junior high and I have lots and lots of energy. In the notes below this video, I'll put down the percentages of each, more details about these two books. And if you have any questions, let me know. Hope to see you soon.